This episode of the Good Living Now podcast is sponsored by our friends at Kuvings. Now, I've had almost every brand of juicer on the market since I started my healing journey in 2015. But the Kuvings Auto 10 has been a complete game changer. It's easy to use and easy to clean. Plus, I'm able to make smoothies as well as sorbets and plant-based milk. So use my code JUICEGUY and save 10%. All right, you know what to do. Get your juice on. Welcome to the Good Living Now podcast, where we talk to real people about real change leading to real health. I'm your host, Harold LaFall, and today we are having a very important conversation with a very special person to me. I know right now so many people are dealing with fear and insecurity around all of the changes that are happening globally. People are worried about their jobs, worried about their money, worried about their well-being. Well, today we have her here. We have the Boldness Coach here. Her name is Vaneese Johnson. Welcome to the show, the Boldness Coach, Vaneese Johnson.
Hey.
What's up? What's up?
I'm finally here.
Look, at the right time. You know,
Yeah.
when I was thinking about having this conversation, you were the first person that came to mind because I've just been observing and listening and hearing so many people that just seems like fear is at an all-time high. And people are
Mhm.
just feeling so insecure about
Yeah.
their jobs, about their businesses, about their money. They're worried about their 401k. They're worried about their well-being.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we have to have a conversation. We have to have a
Mhm.
conversation
Mm.
because I feel like people are just shrinking.
Yeah.
Like all this is going on and people are shrinking.
Yeah.
And I know what that feels like. You know,
Yeah.
I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like, you know, to when everything just seems unstable,
Yes.
everything feels to be uncertain. I know what it feels like to shrink and forget who you are. Forget
Yes.
who you are, forget whose you are, and forget all your strengths, your abilities, and your dreams and your goals because you are
Mm.
so afraid.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
boldness coach, first of all, how you doing? How you doing? How are you
You
doing?
know, I am doing extremely well given the actuality, right? The reality
Mhm.
of life around all of us. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why I am doing extremely well. This has nothing to do with money. This has nothing to do with taking advantage, of any type of situation. This really has to do with me being called forth to tap into my own depth of boldness,
Mm.
because the way that I see what's happening around me is that, listen, I can't change anything that's happening around me as a
Right.
solo person, right? I can't go out there and change all these policies back to the way that they were. I can't change who the person is that's in the leadership role, of our nation. There's just things I cannot change. And
Mhm.
that's not my specific role. But what I
Mm.
can do, Harold, is I can really look at what's changing around me and look for the inspiration that this change is presenting to me. So
Mm.
I see this change as an
Mhm.
invitation for me to really tap into and check in with myself around, how am I living my life? What things
Mhm.
are important to me? What's my vision? What's my mission? And
Mhm.
it's bringing me back to center so that I can
Mm.
get grounded and reconnected with the essence of who I really am.
Mm.
And and the alternative of that is perhaps what a lot of individuals are experiencing. The alternative is worrying, not sure how things are going to go, want to be in control, of things that are around us. It's true that people are experiencing loss, around, their income, their jobs, their positions, their titles. Of course, that is real reality.
Mhm.
So if you go to that alternative about what's happening in the world and you are looking for the world to save you, you're going to continue chasing after the world to save you. But when you step
Mm.
back and you say, okay, what's really happening for me from this experience? What is it
Mm.
that I get to tap into from this
Mhm.
experience? When you
Mhm.
choose the other alternative, where you get to be in a position of empowerment from the realities that have been shaped around you, it puts you
Mhm.
in a power in a position of being bold.
Mm.
You're not taking and settling for what somebody is giving to you. You're not
Right,
doing that.
right, right. And you know, one of the things that I think that has so many people so fearful is
Mhm,
change. It's
mhm,
like this change. It's like one of the things I've discovered is that people can be in a painful place,
mhm.
a place where they're not fulfilled, but because it's familiar,
Oh, yes.
they're okay with it and
Oh,
not
yeah.
willing. And so now when we are seeing and experiencing all this change, it's
Mhm.
like we go into fear mode,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and our lives may not be in even in a place that we're happy or
Right.
are
Right.
fulfilled,
Right.
but it's familiar.
Yeah.
And so we get into this state of worry. And what I know about worry is that worry doesn't change anything. I spent over 50 years worrying about stuff that didn't change anything,
Man, listen.
and and so knowing that I know that that is wasted energy,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
but talk to the person though who right now
Hmm.
maybe maybe just recently lost their job. They lost
Yeah.
their job
Yeah.
and are trying to figure out what to do, where to go, and trying to, they're listening to their friends who are also not working, and
Mm,
everybody's
mm,
like, "We-
mm.
you know, they can't get a job, and it's taken them. They've been looking for a job a year and 2 years. What makes me think that I'm going to be able to get a job?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to
So,
that person.
I want to tap into a couple of important areas that you really highlighted, and the messages in, the response to areas that you highlighted. First thing is complacency.
Mm,
So it is so easy to be comfortable.
mm,
When you are comfortable and you have this routine, you know what you're doing, when you're doing, how you're going to do it. When you have that, it makes it easy for you to just show up. It doesn't call anything forth out of you that you don't already know or haven't already used. So I just want to keep it 100. When you're in
yeah.
the place of being comfortable, it feels good. But when you are invited outside of that place of comfortability, it is the unknown that you're stepping into.
Mm,
But here's the thing that I want everyone to know, because I'm human, we're all human, right? If you're listening to this, you're deciphering the words that I'm saying out my mouth, you're human, you understand this. Is that none of us really wake up and say, "Oh, I want change today."
right, right, right,
Can't wake up
right,
and say that, right?
right.
And so the reality is that when change happens in our lives, it's an invitation for us to become our best selves, or at
Mm,
least become a better version of who we were inside of the area of complacency. You
mhm.
cannot become a better version of yourself if you stay where you at. Now listen, some people need to hold on
Mm.
to their wigs, because I'm gonna tell my voice, right? Some of the job losses that people are experiencing, they have been invited by life way before the man came in and said, "You're gonna
Mm,
need to get out of here."
mm,
Some people just was comfortable doing that work. They
mm,
were getting that nice paycheck. They was in that nice position. They were traveling, doing all the things. But what they weren't doing was growing.
mm.
So the job loss can be looked at as an invitation to reevaluate, really, where am I with my talents, my gifts, and my skills?
Listen, wait a minute. Just hold on, because you're talking real good right now. You're
Mm.
talking to me because so I was running a nonprofit,
Uh-huh.
and I was, it wasn't my dream career. It wasn't my, and I was good at it, and
Yes. Yes.
but it wasn't really fulfilling, if I'm being really honest.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then um the the board put me on a what do they call it? Like a probationary period because I wasn't doing things the way they wanted.
Ooh.
And I was like, but I had gotten comfortable there. I was comfortable. I had my little routine. I was
Yeah.
comfortable. They put me on a performance plan. That's what they call it, a
Yeah.
performance plan, because I was generating revenue, all this revenue in one area, but they wanted me to bring in all these grants. And so we were just not in alignment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I felt some kind of way, but it was what I needed. And I ended up quitting that job because
Yeah.
I was like, y'all gonna put me on a performance plan? My
Am I
ego
holding
kind
up
of kicked it. Right. And and
profit?
and I quit that job,
Uh-huh.
not with another job in
Mhm.
mind,
Mhm.
not with anything
Mhm.
concrete as a next step.
Mhm.
And I am so grateful for that because
Yes.
it pushed me to really figure out who am I? What
Yes.
it made me ask the question, why me here now?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I think
good
that's
question.
a question that we need to ask ourselves at those
Yeah.
pivotal moments. Why me here now? What am I here to do? And
Yeah.
it forced me to go deeper.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for because sometimes when stuff like that be happening, you be getting mad at the people, and you don't know that that's a blessing in
But
disguise
it's the
sometimes.
same situation that's today. Today, it's the
Mm,
same situation for a lot of individuals that are looking externally at the person and they become a victim of the opportunity of growth.
right,
And so
right.
you had that moment, that awakening in your life. But I want to just preference to say that there probably had been many moments of awakeness for you on the journey in your life. So
Hmm.
has it been for a lot of other individuals, right?
Hmm.
Some people, the job that perhaps they were recently released from, the job that they had before they got that job, something happened, whether they were
Hmm.
tired of being treated the way they were treated, whether they wanted to grow and use skills, whether they had gotten, further education. Something
Hmm.
had happened where that they left that opportunity to go to find another one. The only
Mm-hmm.
difference was they may have initiated it. So if they
Mm.
initiated the change, it felt like I have a sense of control.
Right.
But when the change has not been initiated from you and it's initiated externally, you feel like, wait a minute, what is going on? Why is this happening to me?
Right.
And I want to
Right.
just say, I'm not a pastor, but I'm in my ministry of boldness. But
Mhm.
unless we get a disruption in our lives, we are going to stay complacent. You have to have a major disruption in your life that will cause you to stop and say, wait a minute. Like you
Right.
said, what is, this is happening for me and not to me. What's really going on? And that
Right.
that led me to my first book, Bold Isms, Disruptive Thoughts to Help You to Live Bold, Big, and Bad.
Come on
And so,
now. You know
and
I got it.
thank you. And so, what was happening is I went through a divorce. I
Mm.
waited until I was like 42 to get married. And
Mhm.
so I chose that time frame. I had done a lot of things in my career. I had been uber successful, multiple, seven-figure company, traveling the world. I had a teenage son doing well in school, and life was just good. So I
Mhm.
went ahead and I got married, right?
Mm.
I chose a road and a pathway because I felt like that's what I'm supposed to do at this age. I'm already behind, and I'm a
Mm.
Black woman that's behind, with getting married. And am I going to meet somebody? And I was really kind of navigating my life from cultural peer pressure.
Mm.
So I went the pathway that I thought I was supposed to go.
Mhm.
Went into
Mhm.
that pathway and ultimately got there, and it was like, this isn't what I wanted. Like, this isn't what I thought it was. I need to get
Mhm.
out of this situation. But before I came to that mindset, I was trying to succumb to the environment that I was in because I had
Mm.
chose it. And I was like,
Mm.
I can't leave this relationship. What will people think? What will people say? So I got to stay here and suffer through it so that I can prove externally to people that I'm doing the right thing. I'm in the right place.
Mm.
Now, for somebody who say, Venice, that's not my situation or my issue, that's okay. Then replace the characters, replace the situation. Could be your job, could be your money, could be the friendships that you have. And so when things aren't going right, and we get that pushback from those experiences of those peoples, those places, those situations, we get to look at it and say, like, what is going on here? What's really going on here? And so as I transitioned and made that transition, I had to step up and ask the hard question. Do I want to get a divorce? Does this person want to divorce me?
Mm-hmm.
And that was really tough. We get to ask ourselves the deep, tough questions.
Mm.
This is a woman in the mirror scenario, right? You
Mm-hmm.
get to ask yourself the deep question. So when I asked myself the deep question, I was like, I am not happy. And this is
Mm.
the perfect opportunity. The freeway exit is coming up, people.
Mm.
Am I going to get off this freeway or am I going to continue traveling this path?
Mm.
And getting off that freeway meant that there was a level of freedom, but it also was a level of being unknown. So when I
Mm.
stepped into writing the book, what I needed to do, I had all of these kind of mantras and sayings and colloquialisms that had been planted in me since I was a little girl. They had been planted in me culturally. Get a good job with the government, go to school, get your education, you know,
Right.
get married and have 2.5 kids,
Mm.
um, settle down, get that college degree or get the several degrees. If you're going to start that business, you can't have a life. You got to work on that business and forget your personal. Like whatever those things were, I just really succumbed under the pressure to what society was telling me that I needed to do, what the friends who were like me, what they were doing. They
Mm.
were saying, girl, you need to get married. Girl, you need to get you one of these. Welcome to the wife club.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so when you around people that are living at the level that you want to grow out of, if all of y'all on the same level, all y'all gonna be talking the same information to each other.
Right. Right.
So when I wrote that book, I was really like, who made these rules?
Mm.
I need to disrupt my own patterning of thinking, my own patterning of being. So I just encourage people, Harold, to really disrupt yourself in the middle of an external disruption, have an internal disruption,
Mm.
and start asking deeper questions. And the deeper question can be, what is really going on as it relates to me?
Right.
I know
Right.
these external factors are happening, but what really is going on for me? Where is this opportunity for me to really get clear? So your scenario, you started a nonprofit. This is my nonprofit. My name is on it. It's on the letterhead. It's on the door. What
Mm-hmm.
have you? But you brought in a group of people, and those people that you brought in, rightfully so, you brought in seasoned people
Mm-hmm.
that could help you grow this company. But what you
Mm-hmm.
really brought in, Harold, were seasoned people that saw a better level of who you could be.
Mm. Mm.
So
That's good.
perhaps this scenario and situation is really because this is an opportunity for you to become a better version of who you've been being. And your
Right.
complacency isn't going to allow the pathway for that to happen.
Right. Right. And I think a lot of times when people are encountering change, we don't want we want fear to be absent.
Yes.
We want fear to be absent, but I think people get confused about what bold means. I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
boldness doesn't mean that you don't have any fear, does it?
Oh, no, no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So, bonus really is about, and I'll break the acronym down. So, I use an acronym called BOLD, Big, Bad.
Mm,
Bold is becoming out loud daily. What that stands for is that every day is an opportunity for you to step and own your authenticity every day in every way.
mm,
There are invitations throughout the day that invite us to be our authentic selves. And when you
mm,
can stand on being who you are when you show up, Harold, it opens the pathway for other conversations to happen, other opportunities to happen, other people, other interaction to happen. But when we cower down and when we start thinking about, well, how should I talk? How should I walk? How should I be? How should I dress? When we start really second guessing the authenticity of who we are, we immediately start to disempower ourselves. But when you look for the opportunity and you show up when the opportunity shows up every day to be your authentic self, that is stepping in boldness. It's not about being brash. It's not about being disrespectful. It's really about the just owning who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So look for those opportunities and stand in those opportunities from a place of authenticity. This is who I am. This feels right in my soul, and I'm going to stand in this, and I'm going to say what comes to my mind the first thing. I'm going to honor my spirit. I'm going to honor my soul. That is
Mm.
boldness. And being able to say, when someone says to you, well, I think you should do that. Thank you so much for that advice and that suggestion. However, this is the pathway that I'm going to go.
Mm.
I think boldness also has to do with you not knowing the outcome,
Right.
but, but knowing that you have what it takes on the inside of you because your soul is already pulling you in that direction. You know inside of you that I'm just going to show up and do what I need to do. I don't know how any of this is going to happen. I have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what's going to happen along this journey. All I know is I see something forward for myself. So we
Mm.
get to know that. And I want to just put this little cherry top on this for people. Boldness is in the Bible. If you
Mm.
just Google the word bold in the Bible, listen, you're going to come up with so many verses. So we were all born with a level of boldness already inside of us. We get to
Yeah.
tap into it.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Mm-hmm.
we become our bold selves, then we stand up in our own lives and we put the world on notice.
Come on now. Come on
I'm here,
now.
I'm here to get what's mine. I'm here to get what's mine. So you can give it to me willingly, or you can allow me to step in and to take it from you, but it's mine.
Mm.
So that's really important.
You know, I always think about children. I think
Mhm.
of
Ooh,
times what we are called to do and become, it's revealed to us when we're kids. It's the thing that we're naturally drawn at or
yeah,
drawn to. It's the thing that we're naturally gifted at. It's the thing that might get us in trouble all the time. Like
yeah,
you might be called to be a speaker, and when you were a kid, you were told you talk too much, but that was just like your natural inclination. You
yeah,
know, and,
yeah,
and for me, I remember as a kid, always wanting to be a businessman. I really can't
yeah,
even tell you where I got that idea from because I
yeah,
did not see businessmen around me. I
yeah,
always say my dad was a pharmaceutical
yeah,
businessman, but not the legal kind. But so I didn't have any like tangible images around me of a
yeah,
businessman, but I knew that that's what I wanted. I used to get
yeah,
the newspaper and look at the stock market, not knowing, but I knew that's what businessmen did. So that's what I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
And what happened as I got older,
Mm,
people talked me out of it. My school
mm,
counselors was telling
mm,
me, I wasn't college material. I need to think about going to the
mhm.
military, and nobody supported what I felt. And
Yeah,
so I kind of went down the path that was most common. I went,
yeah.
got, a degree, got a job got a government job,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
I was
mhm.
so unfulfilled. I was so unhappy.
Yeah,
And what I did was, which is what so many people do, because I was unfulfilled, I started thinking
mm,
that if I had things that would
mm,
bring me
mm,
fulfillment. So I
mhm.
got me a nice house, I got me a nice
Yeah,
car, and I
yeah,
still felt unfulfilled. And I was working at the housing authority, and I remember listening to the people who were older than me at the time
mhm.
just talking about one day retiring. That was their dream. Just one day, and I'm
Right,
like,
right,
I didn't
right,
want that to be my reality.
right.
And fortunately for me, I got a supervisor who just didn't like me. She couldn't stand me. Her name was Sharon Harrison Brown. She didn't like me. And she was what I needed to happen
Yes,
to get out of that.
yeah,
She made life so miserable and uncomfortable for me
yeah,
that I quit that job, took a lesser paying job
yeah,
just to kind of get my mind straight. And then
yeah,
I started my first business.
yeah,
And so, you know, um, I think a lot of times, people tell us who they think we are, and we try to fall
yes.
in line with that.
We do. We do.
Yeah.
I did an episode on my podcast, The Evolution of Bold, about adult peer pressure.
Mm.
It's real. It's a real thing.
Oh,
We
yeah.
think peer pressure is related to just being in middle school and high school, but it follows us through life, and we actually start experiencing it as a child. So I want to tap into what you said about you when you were, in your child stage, right? In that, you just had this sense in you because it's already planted and rooted in us. We were born into a specific ministry.
Mm.
We were born, each one of us on this planet has a ministry that we were born into. And it takes
Right.
really, it takes you getting to going through the adult cycle in life and getting to
Mm-hmm.
half of your life or almost to half of your life for you to start thinking and realizing something's off here. Something
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel right here.
Right.
And again, that person, those people along your journey, they were giving you the invitation to level up in your life. And that
Mm.
invitation came disguised as getting terminated, getting written up, people not
Mm-hmm.
like the boss, not liking you, not getting the
Right.
support, right?
Right.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that was really an invitation. And you actually accepted the invitation along the way without really understanding that that you were on the pathway to becoming where you are now today.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
being bold enough to stand up and say, you know what, I don't like it here. I got to get out of here. Or being bold enough to say something's off on this. Something's wrong.
Right.
There's something else somewhere else and I'm going to have to go someplace else. And even when you stepped in and you said, I'm going to reduce myself a little bit lower because I need to have time to space to think and to process. And,
Mm-hmm.
and your stepping back didn't mean that you were getting off track, but you really need to go back and recenter yourself.
Yeah.
You still
Yeah.
needed to make an income. You still had
Right.
to sustain your livelihood, but at what cost?
Right.
At
Right.
what cost? So you step back, in that, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
the next thing I'll say that Big did, and you tapped into this, Big means building in your genius. Each
Mm-hmm.
one of us has a genius that was already put into us. Your genius was revealing itself, Harold, in the way
Mm.
that you were showing up as a businessman without really recognizing, I don't even know what this is.
Right. Right.
Like, I don't have no examples, Jesus. What is going on?
Right.
There's nobody coming home. This is not Leave It to Beaver's household
Right.
where
Right.
your dad is coming in with his briefcase sitting at the table
Right.
off his
Yeah.
leg, snapping the paper, right?
Right.
You know,
Right.
or your mom talking to your dad. Well, how was your day at work today, dear? What
Right.
did
Right.
like you had none of that. So
Right.
each of us were already born with at least one genius inside of us, Harold. And
Mm.
if we were to tap into that genius, it would really change our lives in an exponential way. Not
Mm.
just our individual lives, but also the lives of the people that are around us. So you
Mm.
were already demonstrating. So what I'm going to challenge the listeners to do is to really stop for a moment. Stop. Just put this podcast on pause.
Mm.
I really want you to tap into yourself and ask yourself, when I was a kid, what was it that I was imagining for myself that you couldn't tell me nothing? Like I was
Mm.
imagining in my childhood state that I could do these things. Some people
Mm.
were great cooks. And somebody may
Mm.
wait a minute, Miss Venice. I was a superhero, so I had a cape on. What talent is that? That is the talent of serving other people,
Mm.
being
Mm.
able to listen and hear a need, hear a cry, and to
Mhm.
know that the cry is more than an auditory sound, but the cry is that there's a need that needs to get met. Somebody was a
Mm.
great dancer. Somebody
Mhm.
was standing up performing with a hairbrush or a pick.
Mm.
Somebody was on the podium pretending to preach.
Yeah.
Somebody was a mediator because they didn't like to see people fighting.
Mm.
So there's already in us, we get to build in our genius. And guess what, Harold? You
Mhm.
are now in this place in your life where you are living from your genius,
Mm.
right? You're living from your genius of all of the things that you're doing. It has such a level of ease with this that you ain't
Mhm.
even got to be fighting trying to do it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
when we are doing everything else, other than, from what people are suggesting that we do, be, become, and what have you, then we're in places of being unhappy. We're in places of
Mm.
fear. We're in places of being worried. What's going to happen when the shoe drops? But if
Mhm.
you're a person, I used to get in trouble in school for talking also. I used to have to write lines. Now, I'm dating myself right about now. For those of y'all, when you hear that, you can drop that in the chat. Who used to write lines? I
Right.
used to have
Right.
to do homework. I remember one time I had to write 150 lines that I would not talk in class and do my homework. My
Mm.
penmanship sucks today because I'm still traumatized from that. But here's the reality: the teacher never saw that in me. She just saw me talking all the time.
Mm.
And so I didn't know that that was a gift of mine, and I certainly didn't know I could get paid to do it.
Right.
But every career opportunity that I've pursued that really has given me higher levels of success are those opportunities that allowed me to build in my genius and stand up and be talking.
Mm.
I've learned to refine that gift and that talent of talking, right? I've
Mhm.
learned to do that so that it can create the gift that God intended for me to do. And so
Mhm.
now, taking that genius of just one thing of talking, I've been able to travel the world and impact people and influence people, even to the point of being with you.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
got to recognize those things. So every career opportunity, if you are a talker and you've been taking jobs where they got you in the corner and you ain't talking to no people, you miserable.
Mhm.
But if they do have you in a position where you are speaking to people, refine that gift. Don't give it up. Refine it and elevate it. So
Yeah.
you can build in your genius.
Mm. I always think now. I didn't know this then,
Mhm.
but now I know that no one is ever holding me back. The
Ooh,
only person that is holding me back is the person I look at in the mirror.
yeah,
It's the person I
yeah.
look in the mirror, and it's the conversation that I have going on in my head,
Ooh,
you know. And
yeah.
you talk about in your book, there was a place that you talked about transformation won't
Mhm.
happen in your life until you renew your mind, change your thoughts, and self talk. And
Yeah.
even the Bible talks about renewing your mind. But I don't know that people really know how to do that. How do you renew your mind?
Here's the beautiful thing about life, because life disguises, our growth until we stop and
Mm,
look at it. You're always in a state of mind renewal. You're always in a state of mind renewal,
mm,
but you don't always see it that way because it
right.
comes to you disguised through experiences. And some of those experiences aren't so pleasant. But what happens is when they show up, we think differently. You start to think differently, on
Mm,
that. I'll tell people the number one thing that can propel everybody. So if you like, you know what, I'm looking at this podcast and I don't know what I'm gonna walk away with this. I'm gonna really give you three things that's gonna help to shift your mindset so that you can get into a space of transformation and you can get in the space and continue to be in a space of renewal of your mind. The first thing
mm,
is curiosity. Be curious about your life. Be curious about the experiences of your life. Be curious about what you're thinking about. Why am I thinking about this? Why is this so prevalent in my mind? What is it within this thought that I really need to pay attention to?
mm.
Because curiosity invites you to the space of what if? What if?
Yeah.
What if? What if I start talking to myself positively? What could happen if I, what if? What if I did that?
Mm,
What
mhm,
if I started to recognize that I'm always having these negative thoughts about this thing? What if I were to stop, really peel the layers back of this thought so that I can really understand where this thought is coming from, what it's rooted in? And when I understand that, what if I now discover that and now create a new thought?
mm,
Because I
mhm,
got clear. What if I get clear about that, right? The next
mhm,
thing that I want you to think about is I want you to think about so we got curiosity. There's another one I want to get. It was on the tip of my tongue. Y'all, I'm just
mm.
talking because the Korean Shabbat is so excited, right? I'm just like, what else are we talking about, right? So the other one is possibility. That's it, possibility. The
Mm,
next step is possibility.
mm,
Possibility has to do with the what's next. So when
mm,
I go to curiosity and say, what if, then I move into possibility about what's next.
mhm,
Possibility invites me to dream what's next. Possibility invites me to say, well, if I were to change my mindset and be more positive about myself and my talk, then what's next is that I will invite the energy in of other ideas and to be
mhm,
in a space of creativeness.
mhm,
It could also, what if I change my mindset? And then what's next is to go networking in a new environment. with different people.
Mm-hmm.
What's next is, oh, what if I read a book?
Mm-hmm.
you know so that shift is really important, and it keeps pulling you to the next level, because when
Right.
you go into a place of curiosity and you think about what if, you got some choices to choose from. You got left, go bad, right, go good. You can
Mm-hmm.
explore both of those, and you can be able to do the what's next on both of those. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
third step on this is permission.
Mm-hmm.
You Permission creates the pathway for you to be able to execute both of these. Permission doesn't happen if you're not in curiosity. Permission doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen if you're not thinking about what's next, possibility. But when you
Mm-hmm.
step into that pathway of permission, you are giving yourself approval
Mm-hmm.
to continually be in those spaces. And we have to do that for ourselves, Harold. We get to give ourselves permission to
Mm-hmm.
move forward. We give ourselves permission to try something new.
Yeah.
Right? My whole mindset around trying something new. I went out with a friend of mine yesterday. It was her birthday, and it's I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's San Francisco Restaurant Week. And so she said, I gave her the website, and I said, go to the website. I said all the restaurants are listed there, so that you can choose what you want. They tell you all the different kinds of food, right? And it was so funny because when I sent it to her, I chuckled to myself. My spirit was like, now you know what's about to happen. She about to go down the rabbit hole on that list. And I just left it alone. So then she called me, and then she was in the rabbit hole. And she
Mm.
was like, there's so many things. And she says, and I know that you have a particular palate. I said, let me stop you right now.
Mm.
I'm open. I'm open to trying what's out there. I said, the best case scenario, they got salads on the menu, and almost
Mm.
everybody sells chicken.
Mm.
And fish. I said fish. Everybody sells chicken or fish, right? And I
Yeah.
said, the best case scenario, I will find something on the menu to eat. I said, you choose what you like. You choose what you
Mm.
like. And I'm saying that to you is because life is like that. Life is like a smorgasbord.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to know, you got to know who you are to be able to say, I want to try this and just kind of see how this could go. And if I
Mm.
don't like it, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to pivot and go the next direction.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can change your mind.
Yeah.
Having a really good mindset doesn't mean you can't change your mind. You
Mm.
can change your mind.
Yeah.
So that's a way that transformation really invites you in. So, and if you want to get in transformation, then start from the place of curiosity. Again, the curiosity is what if, possibility, what's next, and then permission, create the pathway for it. And every
Mm.
time, Harold, I know you can back me up on this.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, Harold, you said, I'm just going to go ahead on and do this. Don't something happen that blows your mind. A person
Mm-hmm.
shows up, resources show up, invitations show up. And what you call me and you said,
Oh,
look at God.
not right.
Like,
I'll be like, Vaneese, I don't know how this happened. I'm like, look, I said, like, and I always say now, there was this song that Ludacris had. He said, when you move, I move. And
just
God
like
is
that.
like, when you move, right, when you move,
Just
God
like that.
will move.
Yeah.
Just like that. Just
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to be scared because you are venturing into something unfamiliar that you've never
Yeah.
done before.
Yeah.
And you said something really important too
Uh-huh.
about permission, giving yourself permission.
Oh
A
my
lot of
goodness.
times we are looking for other folks to give us permission,
Man,
whether
right.
it's your husband, your wife, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, and that's something that we give to ourselves that only we can give to ourselves.
You only can give yourself permission. What you're looking for externally, when you are looking for people to co-sign on you for whatever idea thought you had, what you're really looking for is external validation.
Mm,
And what you're really saying is, I don't believe in myself enough to be able to do the thing that I want to do.
right.
So you're looking
Yeah.
for people to validate that feeling. And let me tell you something. Even when somebody says you should go and do it, what you do, you go run to the next person and say, oh, what you think? Then you run to the next person. You never will get to the point of execution. And if you do
Mm.
get to the point of execution, you're never going to believe in yourself enough to see the execution through. Because as you start to execute, guess what you're going to do? Call somebody and say, do you think this is the right direction?
Mm.
So every step along the way, you're going to be looking for validation if you're doing it right. But there's a level of naivete that God has put in all of us that allows us not to know the entire process of a journey
Mm-hmm.
because we get to tap in. We got to tap
Mm.
in. That knowing is already in us. The knowing isn't to do it exactly this way, the knowing is to do it anyway.
Mm.
And then allow what needs to come to me to come to me. So I remember telling you sometimes, I said, you gave God something to work with.
Mm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
why it happened. You gave him something to work with, but you had to get out of your own way. You had to
Yeah.
be curious. You had to think about what could be possible. Then you
Mm-hmm.
had to say, I'm just going to do it.
Right.
And God is like, oh, finally. Now we're going to do work with Harold. Come on now.
Right,
Lord,
right, right,
allow me to blow your mind, Harold. Allow me to blow
right,
your mind.
right,
But
right, right.
a lot of people will say this, and I know I can talk to some of my people. I know some of y'all was saying, I didn't know we was going to be in Sunday school today. Some of y'all been saying, well, God just didn't want me to have that. I don't believe that.
Mm.
I don't believe that, and let me just say this is my belief. I don't serve a God that punishes you.
Mm.
I don't
Mhm.
serve a God that gives you an idea and snatches it back from you. I don't
Mm.
believe that. What I
Mhm.
believe is, do you believe? Are you in alignment with the truth of what God says that He has for you? Are you in
Mhm.
alignment with that? Do you
Right.
believe that your life could be as fantastical as it could be?
Mm.
Do you believe it? And you
Yeah.
talk about little kids. The thing that I love about children, this is another way for adults that we can tap into this. I'm going to say children and pets, right? But I'm going to start with children first. With
Mm.
children have a belief within themselves that they can do whatever they want to do.
Right.
We put fear into children. Children do not come here with fear.
Yeah.
Children come here with boldness, brazen boldness.
Mhm.
Children come here with loud, screaming voices.
Mm.
They cry. They've come here with different octaves of crying
Yeah.
because different octaves communicate different things. Children come here and they crawl and they experiment stuff. They put stuff in their mouth.
Like,
They're like,
what is
what is
this?
this?
Like,
What
what
is
is this? Right, right.
and they look at their fingers and they explore them and they put them in their mouth and they take them out and children touch things. They
Mm.
touch things. Children ask questions. Children tell you what they want with no reasoning.
Mm.
Why do you want that? Because what? Because
I want it.
like
I
because I
want
want it.
it.
That's
Right,
right.
right.
Right. And then you tell children no. And even when you tell a child no, when as they're becoming of age and reasoning starts to happen, right? They be asking you why.
Mm.
Because they're at tug of war now because we're about to train them culturally, right? Here we go.
Mm.
They're at
Right,
tug of war because it's like the essence of who they are says they can have whatever they want to have.
right.
Children would
Yeah.
jump off the side of a couch with a cape on and say, I'm a superhero, with no thought that I could break anything.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh my God, you're gonna break something. You jump down, and then they jump down and spring back up and look at you like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? I never thought I was going, and they run off. I never thought I was gonna hurt myself. So we get to really tap into that, knowing that within us, it was already given to us to really be able to express that boldness out of us, right? We just have been conditioned. We got to go back to that. That's why when you're in therapy and your 50 plus club, they be talking about your inner child. That's a whole
Right.
podcast for a whole nother time. But
Right, right.
I want everybody to really know and tap into that, right? The other part of the bold big bad is the bad is being audaciously daring.
Mm.
That's another great gift, Harold, and I recognize that in you as well as in myself. We wake up and there are times when we just do audacious stuff.
Mhm.
You just be like, and the audacious stuff, and I'll give one example for you, right? And I've done this
Mhm.
before, but we're gonna bring it a little closer for people.
Mm.
You did a national tour.
Mhm.
You just like, I'm doing you're like, Venice, I was just trying to figure out what's next. And one day the spirit was like, just go on tour. And you're like, you know what I'm doing? I'm just going on tour. And I was like, well, Harold, do you have anything planned out? You was like, no, I don't even know. You was like, Venice, I don't even know the venues I'm gonna use.
Right.
All I know is I'm gonna go to the markets that have the highest kind of responses to my
Right.
content, my interaction, my book and stuff online, and that's where I'm gonna go. Don't know nobody in no city.
Right.
Just
Right.
show up and have a good time.
Right. Right.
And then be so surprised when you walk in the room that all of these
That
people
somebody showed up. That
that
somebody
somebody
showed
showed up.
up.
And then people showed up with their stories, and people showed up to tell
Yeah.
you how your ministry, right, of you talking about health and being a demonstration of good living. People's like, you changed my lives. And you was like, I was just so blown away. Because, and it had a level of naivete to that because you're like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give myself permission to be audacious enough to step out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the best case scenario is that it unfolded the way it unfolded. So I'm just inviting the listeners to be audacious enough to that when you wake up that morning and you have that really raw thought that you have never
Mm-hmm.
thought about before, nobody gave it to you other than the spirit.
Yeah.
I encourage you to get up and get to business. Get to business about
Mm-hmm.
that. Don't be telling no people, can you
Don't
believe
you?
it came up in my mind? Because
Mm-mm.
if you tell somebody and that person isn't at that level of growth in their life, they're gonna talk you
Mm-hmm.
out of that.
Right.
What will
Yeah.
happen when you allow somebody to talk you out of that? You will stay in a tailspin in your life. Wrong
Mm.
jobs, making money, losing money, wrong relationships,
Right.
issues with everything because
Yeah.
you did not obey the audacious calling that had pulled you forth.
Mm.
So
That's
we get to
good.
be audacious every
That's
day
good.
in
Yeah.
every way. Ask for something just because you want it.
Right. Right.
And you know you
Right.
deserve it. Don't wait for people to give you what you deserve. Go get what you deserve and
Right.
stand up and say, I'm here to get what I deserve. I'll tell you this quick
Right.
story. I went out to dinner with my son, and we had gone to a Peruvian restaurant. And so you know me here, I'll be dressed, and I had on this furry pink jacket, and I had my hair whipped, and so I was walking to the restroom in the back of the restaurant, and I passed this man, and he looked at me, and he did a double take, and he said, um, what are you wearing? And I said to him, a pink jacket. And then and the people around him just started laughing. And he was just so in awe. And so I went on to the restroom, came on back, and I stopped behind him and I say, would you like to touch it? And he said, well, actually, I would. And then he rubbed it, right? He said, it's
Uh,
really soft. I said, I know. He said, you have a whole lot going on here. And I said, you're right, because I'm a whole lot. And I just looked at him. He was just like, he was like, and I like your earrings too. I said, I know, I chose those intentionally. And it wasn't from a place of me being brash, but it was a
Right.
place of me having the audacity to choose when I before I left the house, this is how I'm going to show up in the world. And I don't care what
Mm.
nobody think about me showing up in the world. I don't care about
Mm.
if you like a pink jacket, if you like I don't care. It makes me
Right.
feel good and comfortable. And then
Mm.
when you tell me and you see me and you acknowledge me and you have a comment that may not be in alignment with what I think it ought to be, I'm still going to stand on business about me.
Mm.
So when people telling you at your job, you always talking, tell them, yes, I am.
Mm.
Have something good to
Mm.
say. Refine that
Mm.
skill. But yes,
Right.
when people say, I knew you were going to have a TV show. I knew you were
Mm.
going to be on YouTube. I knew you were going to be a good salesperson. And say to
Mm.
them, I knew too.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
audacious enough to declare within yourself
Come on now.
your
Declare
own
within
boldness,
yourself.
your own bigness, your
Yeah.
own badness. Be audacious enough to be walking around. I'm bold, big, and bad.
Come on now.
Got a
Come on
t-shirt.
now.
I got a t-shirt.
Got a t-shirt with it
I
on.
got a t-shirt with it on it. How you feeling today? Bold, big, and bad. We ain't doing sensational. We doing bold, big. That's how I'm feeling today.
Come
You
on now. Come on. You know, my favorite movie and play of all times is The Wiz. And it's my
know.
favorite because it's so meaningful on so many levels. You
Mhm,
know, if you're familiar with the play or the movie The Wiz,
mhm.
Dorothy was just trying to get home.
Yes.
The Scarecrow, he just wanted a brain. The Tin Man
Mm,
just wanted a heart. And the Lion just wanted
courage.
courage. and they thought that they could find it in this being called the whiz. And
Yeah,
what they discovered was everything they needed, they already had within them.
within them, within
They
them.
just had to believe. They just had to believe. And
That
I think,
that is a good scenario for the reality that we're in. We've given
mm,
too much power to the
mm,
whiz.
yeah,
We've given too much power to the whiz.
yeah,
And
mm,
we're acting as if that whiz can help us to create the life we want or to be who we really
right.
authentically are. But
Come
the thing
on.
and I love the whiz is my favorite one. I like both the whiz and I like the other version of that too, right?
Mm,
And but everywhere along the pathway, they came through challenges.
right,
Everywhere. Remember the witch she was going to burn the scarecrow.
right. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so he learned he had to put that fire out, but he needed the right people around him. Each one of those elements, they needed the right person, but they had experiences along the way that helped them to tap in.
Mm,
And when they got to the whiz and they realized that this is just a regular person, like
right,
and this person got their own
right.
issues.
Right, right.
Then they
And
were
don't
like,
and,
you know
and
what?
don't we be doing that? We be making people the whiz. Your boss is the whiz. This person, like
The
giving them all
pastor,
this power. Your pastor, we be giving them all this power.
listen, we've been giving our power away so long. And then when somebody really abuses the power we've given them, now we really ticked off. Well, we gave
Mm,
them too much power in the get-go. And
mm.
I said to you earlier, and for those people, they don't know this about us, but I'm gonna put us on blast. Harold
Uh-huh.
and I go way back like hot water and cornbread. And so we both had temporary staffing agencies around the same time back, in the
Mhm,
90s, right? The
mhm,
end of the 90s, right? Into
mhm,
2000. And so we have been through several political administrations, several.
mhm,
I was working, I remember working in Manpower, at Manpower in San Francisco downtown doing Reaganomics.
mhm,
The whole war on
mhm.
drugs, the whole
Yeah.
big old thing, right? We
Mhm,
didn't we didn't have no DEI.
mhm,
And if we
mhm.
had it, wasn't nobody talking about it. It wasn't relevant, it wasn't even important,
Right,
right? And
right.
then we had the Bushes, and we went through
Mhm,
several Bush administrations,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Before we got to Clinton. By the time we got
mhm.
to Clinton, we was like, Lord, we didn't work so hard and developing skills and solving problems and scenarios. By the time we got to Clinton, we was like, "Ooh, thank goodness! Now we can actually
Mm,
put things to use, right?" But had
mm.
it not been for those tumultuous times in the administration, and I'm not by no means saying that this is acceptable and we should be grateful and thankful for
Right,
it.
right.
However, that time period really made us tap into our creativity.
Yeah,
It really, Harold, made us tap into what
yeah,
could be possible for us.
that's true.
It
Yeah.
made us create programs and find better relationships, to navigate in
Start
communities,
businesses.
start businesses, right? To
Right.
start businesses, to grow the businesses we started.
Mhm. Yeah,
We
that's
really
true.
had to tap into a way. We also had to tap into personal development. We took classes. We learned things. We found new networks. We learned to tap into higher level networks.
Mhm.
We learned to
Mhm.
balance being in the community, but also being in boardrooms.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the same thing with the whiz, all of this, kind of worked together along that journey, but it was disguised. We didn't know that it was an invitation for us to grow. And we could
Mhm.
not be here today had we not eased on down the road.
C Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. And so, Venice,
Yes.
I could talk to you forever and forever and ever. But look, so you have a program and a course
Yeah.
on to help people identify their bold and to talk about
Yeah.
your programs and then tell folks how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So, I meet a lot of people, like rightfully so, in my travels. And when I introduce myself, I say I'm the Boldness Coach, and I help women to be bold, big, and bad and live a life of no permission. So for my men, listen, I help a few good men too. So, um, but what the feedback I always get was like, see, that's what I need in my life. I need to be bold. I need to be more bold. And I would always say boldness is already in you. You just got to tap into it. And so after hearing that literally for years, I'm like, I want to be able to meet people where they are. So if you're, no matter where you are in the world, no matter where you are, listening in or tuning in from, or no matter if we cross paths, in person, right? I want to be able to leave you with something that could be your springboard, into your level of boldness. So I created the Bold Archetype Quiz. And
Mm.
so it's a free quiz, and it helps you to identify your level of boldness. So there's the bold
Mm.
explorer, there's the bold synergist, there's the bold trailblazer, and there's the bold visionary. And so
Mm.
that allows individuals, it's 6 questions. It takes you about a minute and a half for the quiz. And then when you take it, then you are revealed what your boldness archetype is. Now, I took it a
Mm.
step further because it's like, I'm not here to entertain you and say, oh, I'm this boldness person, ta-da. I
Mm.
also created a report that you can download it. The report is no cost, the same as the quiz. And it helps you to be able to see where the opportunities are,
Mm.
what's really working well and where the opportunities are. And then if you take it further into the course will give you an 18 page workbook that you actually get to put into action your boldness. It's going to show you how it's showing up at your job. It's going to also talk to you about what opportunities could look like if you were to step into that level of boldness in your personal
Mm.
life, with yourself, with those professional relationships. Because I
Mm.
think it's important, Harold, that again, we tap into the boldness that's already within us.
Yeah.
And now we get to level up into that boldness. The report is the first step. The next step is to take the course. And on the other side of the course, I really created this because I wanted to make sure that it was something that was accessible to people. You get to have a coaching session with me.
Mm.
And so that creates an opportunity where you can have a conversation with a person, and the both of you are starting off on the same level, all about you.
Mm.
This is not about let's figure out what's going on. Then we'll talk 3 or 4 sessions before we get there. No, sir, no,
Yeah.
ma'am, we ain't doing that. We ain't got time for that. You
Mm.
you about that bold business, you about that bold
Right.
life. So
Right.
you
Right.
take the quizzes and then you go through those steps. And that is the ultimate part, is to get to the end where you can be able to say, Venice, I do want to have some time in me coaching with you. But in the meantime, you still can do the quiz for free and you can do the report for free. Now you might
Yeah.
say, well, how do I get this? I know we're going to put it in your
Mhm.
show notes, right? And so,
Mhm.
but I'll tell those of y'all that like, I ain't trying to read. Fundamental. So you can just go to my IG page, at the Boldness Coach. DM the word bold, BOLD, on my IG page. DM me, and then it will trigger the quiz for you, and you can carry it from there. And then, Harry,
Mm.
you took the quiz.
I took the quiz. I'm a trailblazer. That's what it said.
What does that mean, Harold? What does that mean?
I don't really know what that be. What does that
I'm
be?
good.
What is
I'm preparing. So what trailblazer means is that you're a person who is a forward thinker. You're forward thinking.
Mm.
You come up, you're like, let's get it done, let's go in and let's get it popping, right? And
Oh.
so you're that person. So you could see that when you did your national tour, you're like, I'm audacious enough to do it. I'm gonna do it. Let's get it done. So you rallied in the people, you gave them the ideas, and you're like, yeah, let's get it done. So that is the
Mm.
beauty of the trailblazer. Here's the challenge,
Mm.
is that
Mm.
sometimes the trailblazers will take on all of the small tasks and try to do everything.
Oh, that's me all day. Yeah, that's me.
So
Yeah.
as a trailblazer, so now you know that that's your level of boldness. Stay in that boldness, stay in the creative space, stay in the audacious space of creating and bringing these things to fruition to be executed. And when you bring
Mm.
your team in, let people do what they do best. So you can do what
Mm.
you do best. But if you're trying to be the visionary with the idea, execute the idea, dot all the I's and cross the T's, you're going to wear yourself out.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going to wear yourself out.
Wow.
So that
Well,
helps to be able to tap into that.
yeah. Well, Venice, look, if y'all want to get y'all bold on, y'all know who y'all better contact. And her book, Boldism. Boldism. Where can I get the book at? Is the book on your
Yes. So the book is on my website. You can go to theboldnesscoach.com and you can be able to access the book right from there. And it's soon to be on Amazon, coming up in the next several weeks.
Oh, come on now. Well, Vaneese, thank you so much. Thank you. You just always just break it down, and every time I talk to you, I feel elevated. And I know that anybody that works with you who does your one-on-one coaching, they will be elevated as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, y'all. Y'all go ahead and get your bold on. Get you some Vaneese Johnson, in your life too.